So I need a new workbench. I'm going to use whatever I can find lying around really to make this. I want it to be heavy, really heavy, as much as possible. So I've got 2 kilns where all this wood is going to come from. It's mainly made out of CLS timber. Pretty dry now because it's been about 3 years since I made these kilns. And hopefully something I can make look nice at the end of it. Let's see what happens. This is going to look a bit odd to some people. The bow is in the middle of this wood and I'm facing it down, not upwards. Now I find this gives me less wastage, and the board, when it's exiting the in-feed table, it's not hitting on the out-feed table. Take note where I'm keeping my hand. I'm not changing pads, I'm keeping my hand in one position all the way through the cut. So it's just skimming off the bottom of the bow. I find this wastes less wood doing it this way. When you start to see the board getting very close to flat from the middle out towards the ends, then start using 2 paddles and just drive it through like a normal board. If you're using nothing for alignment, snug the clamps up first and then just slowly ease on the same amount of pressure across all of the clamps as much as you can. Don't over tight. You can feel it in your hands as you're doing it. And now for the stretchers. Pretty much the same deal. Lots of planing, lots of laminating. I think I'll save you from all of that over again. I was going to do some fancy kind of dovetail-y type joints with this, but then a good friend reminded me, mortise and tenon all day long. And I don't have a tenon saw, believe it or not, big enough to do this. So it's to the table saw for this. I mean, this took a while, even with a 6mm curved blade. I'm going to have to buy a tenon saw one day, because I could have done this faster by hand than using a table saw, that's for sure. Somewhere before all of this I had a bit of an accident with the chisel and pretty much gashed my hand open, looked like chopped liver. Anyway, I ended up in A&E with 4 stitches in my hand. Back on the tools, I think 48 hours later, maybe 24 hours later. It happened on Saturday. I was back on the job Monday morning, bizarrely in no pain whatsoever, even smashing a mallet down on the chisel, all fine. Most importantly, I could still... So a lumpy mallet wasn't going to put me off. So no complaints from me really, just get back on the tools as soon as you can if you have an accident like that. I'm marking out the inside of the legs where the cheeks meet to the leg with the through tenon. The thing is with the marking wheel, it has a flat face right on the outside of the stem of the marking wheel, and on the sort of inside of the marking wheel it's slightly curved. So when you're marking out your mortise, you need to make sure that flat face is your edge line. The curved side needs to be on your waist side, if that makes sense. Otherwise, when it comes to the tenon coming through the other side, you're going to have what looks like a shadow line. It's like 1/2 mil, 1 mil if you've gone so deep with it. And that's best to avoid.
For today's quick words lesson, we're going to take a look at the expression screw up. To make a mess of or completely fail at something, okay? Because I screwed it up. Okay? And
Now I know some of you are going to hate this, but why have a dog and bark yourself, really? I like PU glue. Most people complain about it for whatever reason. It expands, it pushes the joints open. Well, it doesn't if they're clamped. But damn, is it easy to clean up. I mean, as soon as you can feel it's soft, not rock hard, just pull that off. Look, oh, job done. I'm going to reuse that vise and the whole setup, really the back face of the jaws and the front face of the jaws. It isn't going to sit flush with the tenon sticking through. I had a bit of a dilemma here. I've got 2x4's, 2x6's, but for a workbench, I personally believe you need a good solid bit of hardwood in there to be beaten on with a chisel. Softwood kind of absorbs what your chisel's doing, so I came up with this idea, and this will save me a few quid too. A little bit more work. I quite like how it came out in the end. I'm going to use the Festal domino. I mean, you could cut these at like a 60-degree angle and then join them together, but you'll lose some length on them. But that's what I'm going to do because I got it. I'm using a 5-minute PU glue here. Me personally, I feel it's got better adhesion properties, soaking into the end grain such as this joint, and it sets quick so I can get on faster. I'm doing the top in 3 pieces, around about 310mm wide. When you see me clamp them in a minute, you'll see a gap because I forgot to put 2 pieces through the thicknesser, but that's okay because that's all going to get planed again in a little while. I still want these 3 parts of the top to come apart further down the line so I can stick them through the planer and thicknesser to flatten them again. So I'm using the Festool knockdown system, I suppose you call it. It's like IKEA but on steroids. I think this is brilliant, works really well. I'll be surprised if this cabinet turns out alright, given it's not furniture grade ply, it's anything but. I think it's even shuttering ply, it's terrible stuff. So if the drawers don't rack, I'll be really happy, but I'll be surprised. I didn't have much walnut dye left, so I mixed that with some dark oak to come up with a colour for this. Whatever this ply is, it's sure coming up funny. It kind of looks like cat's paw on the oak and stuff. I'm actually quite liking it. What's my Poly X satin I use for this? Whatever drugs you got going, really. Next up, I felt like the outside edge of the whole workbench needed some hardwood to protect it all from a beating or, you know, bashing into it with clamps and stuff. But it was 5 feet long. Dovetails were going to be a bit of a problem because my vise ain't that high off the ground. Sawing these was going to be a nightmare. I had this jig for a while now and that Japanese saw. I don't like Japanese saws, I don't like the handle, there's no muscle memory from them. I think they give you more problems than just learning to saw straight with a Western saw. So I thought I'd give this a shot and see if I was going to have a better chance of getting a straighter line, but no, the end result wasn't good. And if you've got carpole in both hands, trying to clamp that jig and hold everything trying to steady, God, it was painful. The other downside to using a Japanese saw is coming in with a fret saw afterwards. The kerf and the plate of the Japanese saw is so thin, it's really difficult to get that blade down there and turn it like you would. One thing I struggled with for months, or longer than that, I could get dovetails off the saw in softwood. Hardwood, could never get them off. They were always too loose or way too tight. And I eventually figured out it's because of the marking knife I was using. I was using like a scalpel blade with a double bevel, which was either going underneath the mating piece or just slightly out, so they were then too loose. So my best advice to you is, if you're struggling with hardwood dovetails, is just get a marking knife that has one flat face, like I'm using in the video, and you might find that helps you a great deal. Even though the bench is pretty much just mocked up, the vices kind of fitted, not right in the right place, etc. God, I could tell straight away sawing. There's no movement in the bench. Oh, I was happy as... Yeah, using a backing board here. Don't ask me how I know, but it's well worth using, trust me. You bust out the outside after all that work. Oh, pisses you off, I can tell you. You'll see from my chisel, it's all pretty much like a mirror at the back of it. That's really, apart from the secondary bevel, that's as much as you need to polish. Don't waste your time trying to polish the primary bevel up to a mirror. It's pointless. It's not in contact with the wood. Don't waste your time. Don't waste the metal. Don't waste your money, man. onto the pop-up bench dogs. Now for me this was probably the biggest reason of this build, because they're so damn handy. My old bench, I had to push them up from below and it got a bit of a pain in the arse. Not to mention it was a waste of storage space too, because you needed like something like 6 inches to be able to get your hand underneath there. It was a pain. I had already drilled and cut and made all of these bench dogs prior to this, but for whatever reason the audio didn't make it through, so I'm adding an extra here, which after giving it a lot of thought was one that was needed. I don't like drilling holes in benches and stuff until I absolutely know what I need. The mechanism I'm using here wasn't completely round, so I'm having to just kind of square a little notch that had it in it so it'll fit. Tick tick boom. All I did here was just take it to the miter saw and lock that to length. I've had these dogs now for about a month now, and trust me, this does not get old. And now for the drawers. I don't like making boxes, I don't like making drawers. They're kind of repetitive and pretty bloody boring, to be honest with you. Here you go. Anyway, I had to make 8 of them in the end, I think, if I remember correctly. As much as track saws are good, they're good for breaking down sheet goods, but not brilliant for making cabinets when you need to have everything cut perfectly parallel and square. Better to take it to a table saw if you've got one. Remember, everything I'm using here I've basically salvaged from the old assembly table, so you're going to see screw holes in it, old stain, bits of varnish, epoxy all over it. No big deal. I mean, it's just going to be carrying the same stuff again, so it's all good. I'm not even going to bother staining it to match the cabinet. No point.
Bollocks. Oh, bollocks.
This is going to look a bit odd. I'm using drawer slides that are too long. Remember, I'm using drawer slides from the previous assembly table, so I'm raising them up higher so the drawer's the other side. Those drawer slides don't interfere with each other. And now for the drawer fronts. I'm going to make these drawer fronts the same as I did with my wall hanging tool cabinet, which is just behind this. Using PU glue again, quick. Don't be a bell end like me and leave the top drawers in when you've only got 5 minutes before this stuff sets. Just an FYI for you, I'm using PU glue for this mainly because it seems to be able to handle heat much better than your standard PVA glue, and it doesn't peel back. Hasn't failed on me like PU glue has, sorry, PVA has. This is the same chalk paint I used on the wall hanging tool cabinet. Just knock it up 50-50 water and chalk paint. If you're anything like me, you're not going to be wanting to wait for that water-based paint to go off. So just get out a hairdryer or a heat gun and just blast that so it flashes off really fast. Then just get some cool white wool and knock it back a bit. Don't go too mad, because you'd be surprised what happens when the finish hits that and how much it pops. You'll see in a minute. No, I didn't choose to go with a leg vise because I seldom ever have to hand plane or do anything to an edge that's much longer than 900mm. And if I do need to do something like that to a door or something, behind me is a better clamping option. A carpenter's vise seems to suit pretty much most needs. And here's one for team overhang, and that's the reason why. I don't have a desk in the workshop, don't have the space, but if I need to sit down and do some drawing, write out some cutting lists, I can get my legs under something and it's just much more comfortable, man. Having used this for a month now, it's only 900mm wide, so clamping, like a 12-seater dining tabletop, it's a little bit shy for that.